Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the part two of this introduction to object-oriented programming. In the part one, we looked at what object-oriented programming is. We described it as a programming paradigm that uses objects to design applications and computer programs. We explained that object-oriented programming provides a clear modular structure for programs and makes it good for defining abstract data types. It helps us to be able to properly organize code, ensures code readability, code reusability, a modular structure for your programs, basically. And we looked at the core concept of object-oriented programming, encapsulation, abstraction, inheritance, polymorphism, just explaining it, and we looked at abstraction and encapsulation by trying to transform a procedural programming that was with a bank account program. Like we try to mimic a user creating a bank account, and then we create a simple bank account program, which was done in procedural programming, and we try to refactor that in object-oriented programming in which you're able to do a lot of encapsulation and abstraction in creating that. In encapsulation, we ensure that we use the identifiers to reduce access for we like for example properties like balance transactions. We made them to be private, so they are only accessible inside the class. So if you're outside the class, you cannot access balance, for example. If you create an instance of bank account, you can access balance or transactions from outside the class because it is private. I think we did not demonstrate that. So I might want to try to demonstrate. Let us quickly try to look at that. Let's see. I want to do echo. Um, okay, probably let's just ensure that this is first on a new line. So echo bank account. Then let's see what to get balance. You realize that balance is not even coming first. And balance is one of the properties of the class, but because we've actually used a private identifier for it, the balance, so okay, yeah, but try to use it so it should not it will show up. Like we try to like say, let's say transaction. So we have bank account transactions. You will not see transactions. Transactions will not come up because it is no. And if you try to call it, it will tell you that property transaction is not found. And it's not like the property is not available, but you have restricted its access. You have restricted its access. And you can actually see this by, let's say I change this and I change it to public. If I change it to public and I go back downwards, sorry, transactions. Okay, so because we might argue probably because I did write the appropriate. So let's say I have transactions. Yeah. So okay now. So it says member has private visibility. So which shows that transactions is actually a member, but it's private. Else I cannot call it. So this will definitely throw an error if I try to run it. If I try to run this program, it will throw an error because it has private visibility. So those are part of ways in which you the street access to your properties, the street access to your properties. Um, so there is an option there that says make transactions public. So if I make it public and I call transactions, So I need to string so because I'm trying to echo it saying it and I need to say conversion because echo is basically for uh what's it called? It's basically for echoing out string properties, but like echoing out items in a string. So if I want to actually create an array, I can just use a different method like a print underscore out. But that's not what we are trying to do here. Now realize that this has actually changed this to public, and therefore the transactions is accessible outside the class. But I will return it to status what it was. So um, that's just an illustration of how the identifiers help us to restrict access. So we have the construction constructor and basically most of the uh, functionalities that help us to, handle the bank account uh, uh, structure is abstracted in this method. So these methods, you do not see them outside the class. Like you just know that there is a deposit method available that accepts an amount. You know that there is a withdraw method available that accepts an amount, but you really do not need to bother yourself about the inner workings. So that's abstraction basically. So for us to be able to look at inheritance, it means you try to create some classes from the bank account class. And the best way to look at it is probably, let's say you are trying to have different kind of bank accounts. But before I go deep into that, let us actually look at inheritance in a simpler form before we try to probably refactor the code further. Let's say we want to do um, so when we started the class, the previous part one of the course, we were looking at a person class. If you did not catch up, like if you have not actually seen part one, you can go back to that video introduction to P1. So part one of the course, we had the person class and we created a person with these properties name, age, gender, email, username, password, and all of that. And then we created some methods for the person, right? Now, there is also a constructor for just the age and the gender, the name, age, and gender, which you can provide that. So we want to illustrate what inheritance is. And then to illustrate inheritance, I would just let go. I would what's it called? Delete this. I don't need this any longer. So just also have some space for what you want to do. So let's say we are trying to create a new class, and I'm creating an employee class. If I'm creating an employee class, I might okay, let me put this okay. So creating an employee class, I might want to um uh start from scratch because an employee definitely I need the name of the employee. Might need the gender, the email of the employee. So we'll just make maybe a little some arrangements here. I do not need this username. I might give the password, age, gender. I don't need that. Is alive. I don't need that. So I'll still keep the person class. These methods, they are fine, but basically, okay, I'll keep them. But we have name, email, gender. I think I'll just leave that as name, email, gender, and then this email will now be equal to email. All right. Now yeah, we have login. You can just keep that as it is. Then let's see. If you are creating a class employee, uh, so I have like some suggestions already. We can have like some properties, and basically, yeah, we have instead of try to create an employee class that has where you have to like have the you are getting the name, email, gender, username, and all of that password of the employee. It is better to extend the person class. So you are inheriting the properties of of the person class. So that takes us to like the third core concept of object-oriented program, which is inheritance, which reduces code duplication. So you are trying as much as possible to not repeat yourself with as much as possible when you are actually coding. So I have that this extends the person class, and then can see that we already have uh, suggestions for what we want. Some of these I do not want them, so we have to make. I don't want those methods. But for the properties here, position, so the properties of an employee, you have position, you have yeah, salary of the employee. You can talk about employment status, for example. Uh, yeah, date hired, all of that. So employment status. I will just keep it at those three properties. And then if you are now creating your construct, remember that the constructor is important for when you are initializing your object. So when you are initializing your object, and you are initializing the class, the constructor is important. So I could have salary, then the employment status. So I and that's and another thing that we can do, which this has illustrated, is that I can actually have that a property. It's given a default status. Like I can have it. I can have a default initialize. What's it called? A default proper a default value are given to given to a property while in the constructor. So that's what this has done. So like employment status employed, it can be employment status can be pending, employment status can be suspended, like that different forms. I can also have like employment type. Yeah. So employment type and you can have that type added there too. So that can also be given the default value employment type because full time. And if it's not full time, then you can add your own this to it. We can add our own I thought that was a bracket there. All right, so we have this and you can see this parent construct. Now, because we are extending a parent class, you have to add the parent construct to it. Now, what does the parent construct do? The parent construct helps us uh, to properly initialize the parent class because we are extending the parent class. So the parent constructor is responsible for initialize the properties and setting up the state of the parent class. So you already know that the person class has its own constructor, and you are trying to like get that constructor properly initialized as well. So you have the parent construct. So that properly initializes the parent class as well. In JavaScript, in this case, we use super. So when you are in your constructor in JavaScript, just instead of having when you are inheriting another class and you want to properly initialize the properties of the class you are inheriting, you use super in the constructor. So that is properly initializes the parent class, the parent class, yeah. So for this, we have name, image, and we have the parent constructor doing that. And then we get the position, the salary, then employment status and employment type. Now, remember that the employment status and the employment type were have been given default values, but those values can be changed when initializing. But it's also possible that you don't bother providing that those values and you will still be fine. That's one thing about inheritance that you need to note. So let's say I uh, I'm creating, yeah, I want to also create like maybe some methods for the employee. So we can add the basic getters, and when it comes to encapsulation, you want to like probably because you want to make some of your properties. You want to like access, reduce the access to the properties. So I might say this should be private, but if I need it outside the class, I create like a getter function. Or if I want to set the value of a property, I might have what we call a setter function. So those properties, so we use that to set the values or get the values of different properties. I'll make an example of a getter. So let's say I would need the salary outside the class. I'll just make this private. So position is basically a string. So uh, but they were okay, yeah, because we've done the data and because it's private, so it's asking for that. So, well, as from PHP, to the best of my knowledge, I think it might be earlier, but from PHP 8, because I jumped from PHP 5 to 8, so as for PHP 8, you can actually provide types for different properties of different variables that you are declaring. So I can just say, okay, probably I expect salary to be a float. I can expect employment status to be a string, and employment type to be a string as well. So that is just you adding the type, of the variables that you are creating. And in the case of our classes, you are adding the type for the class. So I can just have a public function, get salary, for example, or get employment status or something. So let's say get salary. So get salary will be like, basically I just want to return salary. I don't want the return this salary. So that just returns the salary, and that's all. It just returns so for a private property, you can create a getter method that will help you to get the value of the property. So you are not exposing that property to the public, but you have a method that helps you to get the property that you want. For an employee, there are like different methods that you might want to have. just aside, like what are the behaviors, what are the operations, what are for an employee in an organization, you expect that the employee will work, for example. So you can have like a public function work. Um, I would Yeah, I think I'll just accept this suggestion. You can expect that the employee would probably take a break, attend meetings. Those are like different functions that you can, create for that employee class. Like take break. Sorry, yeah, apply leave. Like different uh, these typically you can have your the implementation, as you want. But just this telling us that we are extending the person class, and what are we doing here? We are adding more properties to that class just to show, just we're adding some more properties to the class, just to show uh, inheritance of the class. We can also override. So basically, I want to now go into polymorphism because you for a class, what polymorphism, like I think I've explained it in the previous video, but it's basically you saying that this code can take many forms. That is, you can actually apply many forms, to the class can be implemented in many forms. Methods in the class can be implemented in as many forms as possible. So we have a login user, I believe in the person class. If you look at it, we have a function login user in the person class. We can make this login user, our own. Like you can make it do something specifically in the employee class. So you can make it to do something else, or you can probably check for a different value. You can probably see while logging in, you can check if the employee status is pending, then the person should not be allowed to log in yet. If the employee is confirmed, then the person so you can extend the functionality basically. So it can take many forms. So it might be the same login user, but you are actually you are taking that in different forms. So that's what we are going to be trying to check. So uh, we have that same function of login. So I've accepted uh, that's yeah, I do that's not what I want. Definitely you are taking I don't want so probably we'll have to open this later, but I need the full. So um, we want our own method. And apart from this functionality, if this email is email and this password is password, and employment status is employed, exactly, then you are not logged in as an employee. Or if we want, we can even make this better. I would not do this because they are like, so if yeah, so this is actually giving me what I wanted. Equals to employed. Uh, we would say you're no longer employed, but you can just say uh, uh, please contact HR for assistance. So something like that. And so the same login user that we have, but we have what made it our own. We have made it our own. So it's basically like the same you have methods, but you have like a different form of that method. So that's polymorphism basically. You have like method override you are trying to like override the functionality of that method, what the method is doing in the parent class, you have added onto it. So it's called method overriding. Method overriding. So you are trying to extend the functionality of that method. Either you are extending it or you are adding more functionality, or you are basically doing something else, based on the use case of whatever program that you are writing. So that's actually polymorphism in place. So basically, we have this, and uh, you can create a new employee. So let's have employee one, and we have to pass the basic properties while initializing. So we have the email, sorry. I think we have gender. Let's mail. The next one is position. Sorry, software developer. Then salary 50,000. Let's assume that is in dollars or pounds. Then you realize that in initializing this employee, we already have uh, the employment status because we have a default value for it. So let's have echo the employee one employment status. Oh, remember that we made employment status to be private. So let's take that to public. Let's take that to public so that it suits our narrative. I'll come back and probably create a getter function for that one. Let's just have this. So employment status. Now it's available, and then no, I'm not using break. So I don't know why this didn't work the last time, but I think I'll just use the line break here. So let's have this, and then we are basically op intro dot php. Now you see that we have employed here. So that default value that we have added to the constructor is what is seen. So even though we did not provide the employment status when initializing that employee, the employee object. So when we are initializing the new object for employee one, we only provided the necessary once we did not provide employment status, so it takes the default value. You can override that for a different object. So let's say we have employee two, so which is new employee Jane. Um, you would expect that this would just provide, yeah, something like that. And we have for employee, and then let us echo this. And if I run this again on the terminal, and I have, so you see that they have, now in the second case, I provided the employment status for Jane. In the first one, I don't provide any reply. So if you want to like override the default values, that's acceptable. If you don't want to override it, you can just leave it as it is and declare and create an instance of your class. So let us also look at login. So let's see if employee one is trying to log in. So I will just get rid of this and then let's try to do the email is johnemail.com. Oh, remember we did not actually assign a password to this, so we can do that here. We can have employee one. Now, this another important thing to note. Remember that the last time I think I mentioned the fact that most of the properties are you do not it except for the ones you want to initialize when the object is being created. Those are the important ones. Like those are the ones that you can put in the constructor. You can actually initialize all of your properties. That's fine. And for some of the properties, you might not initialize them. Now look at the person class again. Realize that there is this password property. Password property is here, but we it's not initialized in the constructor. And you can because employee class is inheriting from person class, that particular property is still available for employee. So that's what we are taking advantage of here. So let's say we have the password to this, and then I said, okay, let employee one try to log in. And then for employee two, I have, let's just keep it simple as well. Then uh, login user, so Jane.do. And then we have that. If I try to run this, very clearly terminal, let's try to run that again. And then the first one, you are now logged in. And what you have for the second one, please contact HR for assistance. Basically, what you expected it to do. So let's go back to the bank account example and see how we can improve that with some inheritance. I think for okay, I have to let me try to open this up. Yeah, the bank account will open. Let's have no. I hope I'll go full screen. Let's just go full screen. So for here we have the bank account class, and if you want to show inheritance, we will just add the new class. And let's say we want an instance of bank account. Most likely, I will advise you create, let's say, a new savings account, or yeah, like a new type of account. So let's say we have different types of account. Let's have like a savings account and maybe a checking account. Yeah, let's have a savings and a checking account. So savings account, yeah, for savings account because you are trying to say there is an interest rate, and therefore you have so yeah, I will just accept this. I think this actually gives me what I need there. And for the constructor for the parent, you have parent construct. So the what's it called? Suggestion is actually looking solid, the solid. Uh, then you add interest. Or I actually have like an apply interest method in mind, but yeah, this is solid as well. So interest is check balance. No, it should be this balance because you are doing balance times this interest over 100. Then you add the deposit and then you add the interest, and yeah, that's actually great. Um, so if you are creating a deposit, you are already so let I think it's solid enough, except that this should be which means that for balance, we have to make balance to be public. Or we can say instead of making it public, we can make it protected. We can change the identifier. Yeah, we can change the identifier so that we can use it in a different uh so for this we have so let's make the balance. So we change it from private to protected, and then I think that should be able to solve that. So let's make it protected as well because we want it to be available in the subclasses. So that is, and for private function validate amount, I think we'll change it to protected. Yeah. And then this also can be changed to protected rather than private. Um, let's see. I think that is that's solid for now. Yeah. So even these public functions, yeah. So this is fine. This fine. Yeah. So that makes it available for the subclasses, and then there we can have for the interest rate to this. Yeah, so this solid. The add interest. We can just I can leave it as that. That's okay. So we have balance times interest rate and then that's times 100. And then you have this. So basically we able to inherit that's another lesson we can learn. So private identifier is the highest level of security you can have on your classes to some extent, and if you make a property private, you can see that it will not be available in your subclasses. So, protected will ensure that outside of the class, like a what's it called, a at distance of the class will still not be able to have access to a protected property. So let's demonstrate this. So let's say I have bank account balance. Remember that balance is not protected. This will still not accept it because it says member has protected visibility, except I make it public. So I cannot have access to balance outside of either the class or the subclass. So the protected level ensures that even subclasses have access to the property. So that's another level of the encapsulation that you need to understand. So while we can have public protected and private. The difference is for public properties, they are available outside of the class. So for any of the instances of the class, you can access any of the public properties or methods. For protected, make sure that the properties or method are not available for in outside the class, but you can be available in the subclasses. For private, you cannot use a private property or method outside of a class, and you can't even use it in the subclass. So that is very important to note. So we have a class savings account. Another type of account that you can have is a checking account. So sorry, and then for checking accounts, yeah, we can have these and then the targeting method. So we can have we have private flow transaction fee. Like I accepted this because this is somehow solid, but we can actually include, because for checking accounts we can give users access to what we call overdrafts. So let's see, we can see overdraft limits. So uh, like since this is basically yeah, since this is basically this is totally dependent on how whatever use cases, like whatever the developer is trying to achieve. So this is not limited to everything, or it is not a, it is easily extensible. So you can add as many properties as you feel is necessary. But this is just from like a basic knowledge of what the banking process should be, and this is just a periphery, just introducing a concept. So we can have as many properties as possible or as few properties as possible. So here I just tried to add overdrafting. That's what was in my mind to do. But this was a very cool suggestion as well. This was a very cool suggestion as well, from the ID which I accepted. So we have that for the construct, you can have the transaction fee, and they can also include the overdraft limit. And then uh, I okay, and then for the overdraft limit, you get the credit constructor transaction fee, overdraft limit. And in this case, we would actually look at overriding the withdrawal method. So you know that there is sometimes I look at it and I'm like, you must be a witch, or you already understand what I'm trying to do. Because if not, why how does definitely everybody understands. So it's actually it's working based on uh, an idea of what is expected of a bank account. Now if you have if there is an overdraft limit, for example, then there is definitely the need for you to check if the person is over that limit, or if that limit, if the amount that you have is up to the balance plus that limit. So it is just, so it actually looks at this and like, okay, uh, if I'm going to if there is an overdraft limit that is applicable to this checking account, then we need to adjust the withdrawal method for that checking account. So it's basically looking at the functionalities that you are trying to portray. and the functionality that you are trying to include in your code. So it looks at the fact that okay, we have an overdraft limit property already, and if there is an overdraft limit property, then it means that we need to override the withdrawal method. So it's basically like the, the steps ahead, like thinking about okay, what are the properties I've added in this code, and use that to bring suggestions based on and suggestions are basically solid because this is actually uh what I wanted. Like, okay, we have withdrawal transaction, we override the withdrawal method. If you look at the former withdrawal method that we add, let's see if we can split this. So that we can be able to look at it step by step. Yeah, so split right. So I would so this is the new okay, so this checking account, so this savings account, this is the withdrawal method in the save account, the withdrawal method in the checkings account. This is the former withdrawal method. So for the it basically extend the functionality of this former one. So you realize that the former one we were just checking is less than the balance, but now because the person has overdraft, we are now looking at okay, the balance plus overdraft. Now, and then you deduct whatever withdrawn amount from the balance, and then you add the transaction to, the transaction list, and because the checking account has transaction fees, you have you deduct the fees, from the balance as well, and you withdraw the amount. So basically, you mentioned, uh, okay, now, so we have that, and then Echo will do this amount, and then we have all of that. So basically, that is us doing polymorphism. Just we have the same the method overriding the method from the former class in a different form. So like we have a class many forms, right? And then we are able to undo most of those properties. So let us update uh some of the cases we have, especially the user interest function. So for the user menu, since I'm no longer comparing, I'll close this out. So we have echo, yeah, we have four. I think we have to extend this functionality because now we have a savings account. So we have bank account menu, check balance, deposit money, withdraw money, print transaction history. If there is, so let us have savings. So let's have so apply interest. So if you are going to be applying interest, it should be to only savings account. So savings account only. So then option six. So these options are changed. Your six now be exit, and then you have choose an option. You all of this is just also trying to get is a PHP function that gets the input to standard input. I think I didn't explain that in the last class. So it's just us getting the typed input from the user, and then we have if case is five. Now, the case five is different. So, case five now we have to check. This should change to six because six is now exit. So, for case five, Now you check if the bank account is a savings account, and then this looks solid. I actually have a different implementation in mind. What I would have done here would be, if method exists, that's what I would have. But still, we can still um, add that layer of, you can still add that check. So you can have, let's say, there is a method exists. Yeah, like the method exists, method that checks if the method exists in this bank account. So if the method exists, then we carry out this. So that provides like an extra layer of security. Then we do this. Um, to, 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 so yeah, I think we have this. Sorry for the. I'm just used to, whenever I'm working, I just have to have some music probably playing underground. So I'm just used to always doing something. So we have that. If bank account instance of savings account, that was a solid suggestion actually. Checking in the bank account. This was what was on my mind basically. But this is actually a good check as well. So we have this, and then we can try to create a savings account, a checking account, just to see what is obtainable, right? So for a new savings account, so we are not just creating a new bank account. So we are creating a new savings account, and savings account as to initialize that, we have initial balance, and then we have the interest rate. So we have to include, so let's say the interest rate is 5. I have a 5% rate in mind. And we can try to, uh, let's have PHP. I know that I should have this in my history. So let me see. Bank account to op.php. Yeah. So it created the savings account balance with balance of 1,000. Now, if I click 5 to apply interest, it added interest of 50, deposited 50, because what we have, and then this should actually reflect in the balance. So if I check balance, I have 1,050, which means it has added interest, that's added interest. So we would, let's create a bank account too, or let's just say current account, new checking account, and we have here initial balance. So user menu will come after that. So yeah, so we have initial balance. Let's take initial balance to 50,000. Transaction fee. Yeah, let's do it as, let's just say probably 10. Interest on the value, let's have 1.5. And then overdraft limit, let's give this person 200. It value of 200. So we have a checking account. Now, if you want to, we would, I would, let's say option 6, so that we can exit. Then let's run this program again. It will create two different accounts for us. So we created the savings account. I created the uh, the current account. So if I choose option 5, I think there'll be an issue here. It's deposited money for the first one, it did not do anything for the second one. If I try to check balance, the current balance is still for the savings account. Um, so let us try to. So the user menu should be for both of them, so not just current accounts. So the user menu. So let's have user menu current account. So I'll start this all over again. Pardon me. So let's have this. So if I check, we have that the current account has been created. Let's try to deposit money. So let me deposit 10,000. I just want to show. So we deposited 10,000. Let's print out the balance. Current balance is 60,000. Then let's try to apply interest. It will not, this option is only available for savings account. So it actually did that check and like, oh, you are not an instance of this, so any of this works. So this, since it's not a savings account, this option is only available for savings account. And that's awesome. So let's try to withdraw money. If I try to withdraw money and then withdraw 20,000, it will just that let us print transaction history. So for our transaction, it shows deposit withdrawal, and that's just awesome. So that's basically um object-oriented programming, in its full form. Thank you. Yeah, I see a lot of practice that needed to be done. You can explore further resources on the internet. There are so many other videos. I'm going to try to upload this file to GitHub or to any GT source that is available that for the Zuli platform. And then we have assignments. I'll look at. I think we have played the assignments, and I'll look at that, and then we'll, I think by Monday we should be able to have another assignment up on the platform as well, and I'll communicate the date for our final class. So thank you for staying with me. I'll see you at another time. Cheers.